Hey, great Friday to you, everybody, and thanks for watching my videos. Also, the NFL annual meeting is next week. Zenny Media is credentialed to be there. Um, More about that later, but I want to focus right now on the unfortunate ongoing saga of the City of Oakland's dysfunctional handling of Howard Terminal. And the latest is, first of all, a series of appearances made by Oakland District 3 council member, I live in District 3 in Oakland, Carroll Fife, in her quest for relevancy, essentially, on the back of the Howard Terminal issue. First, she holds a town hall where she says that she's going to inform the public of where the process is from her perspective. And she had, by accounts, a great turnout. But then she uses that forum to, among other things, does Councilmember Fife, present her idea to bring all of this to a decision of the voters. I can think of a couple, but there are a few better ways to chase away a developer of a project that has spent several years on the project and spent millions of dollars on the project than to, at the last minute, on top of a council vote regarding the development agreement, say, hey, now we want to bring this to the voters as an extra brand new layer. Now, there's a lot of time and road to go between here and there. In other words, between the idea of a ballot measure and the actual doing of that thing, right? But the simple fact that Councilmember Fife would choose to do that is reckless. And the reason she did it, for me, was clearly presented at Rules Committee yesterday when, during the time that Oakland Councilmember Noel Gallo's idea of a kind of a cost-benefit analysis, another presentation of an attempt to create relevancy on the back of an issue that should have been solved, was brought up, the esteemed Oakland District 3 council member starts to essentially pop off about her being essentially disrespected by other council members and reminding everybody that this is essentially her area and she is the District 3 council member. Folks, in my history, if you want to prove that you're not relevant in anything, complain to others that they are not paying attention to you. I'll never forget, an Oakland redevelopment director, when I was consultant to the city of Oakland, basically say to everyone that that person was in charge. And that was in the middle of the staff selecting another room to have a meeting other than where he wanted the meeting to happen. Rather than just say, fine, we'll go there, he had to remind everybody that he was in charge. Of course, he didn't get what he wanted. And he wasn't long for the position, has long since been gone. Councilmember Fife seems to want to have her cake and eat it too. That is, she wants to reduce Howard Terminal to this left-right issue. It's about a billionaire and rich people structuring something that doesn't work for poor people. And it's about how she needs to jump in and make sure that she is representing, or her community is represented, as if there was no structure for that to happen prior to her arrival. I have said this before, and I'll say this again. The mechanism for what Councilmember Fife and other people want to achieve from Howard Terminal is baked in SB 293 Skinner and baked in Enhanced Infrastructure Financing District law. The trouble is, and this is represented by the zero number of times Councilmember Fife addresses legislation, is they don't pay attention to it. They don't read it. Councilmember Fife's problem is she doesn't want to use the lever of government to achieve it because she means she has to take time to stop, admit she doesn't learn it, ask questions, figure out the way forward, and then make sure that way forward goes, and then take a specific set of actions as her walking papers and do those actions. She is not strategic. She is consistently emotional. She does not understand what it means to be a professional government official. She is too busy trying to be an activist, and she doesn't know how to turn off that engine and turn on the engine of government management, of being a sound policy formation architect. And that is why she is where she is. And that is why she's frustrated. Okay? And for me, it's like watching her on a hamster wheel do this. You know? She thinks she's getting somewhere, but she's not. And the only thing she's getting is frustrated. Okay? Frustrated. The amount of money that is needed to pay for the community benefits that have been structured is in the tax increment financing revenue throw-off from the Howard Terminal District. I've said it before. This is a mathematical fact, so I'll say it again. And first of all, it's something else to Councilmember Fife. You have to become comfortable with doing and understanding math. But at a base year assessed value using tax increment financing of $2 billion, ballpark at $1 billion, an additional $1 billion in development, a rate of growth of 4% per annum, that's per year, over a 45-year period, which is the maximum allowed by EIDF law, then we realize at the end $1,600,000,000 in revenue. You only need half of that, debt coverage ratio 50%, right? Or excuse me, 2-to-1 debt coverage ratio, not 50%, but 2-to-1. $800 million bond issue result, base. Size the bond from there and figure out how the proceeds from that bond, that $800 million or thereabouts, gets carved up. $350 million to the A's, which they say they're going to pay back. The remainder for community benefits, including, and this is in the legislation, and you will see it when you read it, any project anywhere in the city of Oakland deemed of community-wide importance. So what should have been done 2 years ago, which should still be done and is not done, is first of all, the city of Oakland by law needs to and still has not formed something called a public financing authority. It's still by law, still has not done, it has not written the infrastructure financing plan. Everything that Councilmember Fife wants to see and Councilmember Guile wants to see would be in the infrastructure financing plan if the city bothered to write it. It hasn't been called for. I've said this again and again and again, but because some of you have really stupid and ridiculous, and I might add racist, regardless of your color, issues with me, you don't pay attention. Keep not paying attention, because I'm telling you, at some point you're going to have to deal with these facts I'm explaining to you. Like it or not. If you want to get the project done, you have to follow the law. If you don't do that, guess what? Someone, not me, with more money than me, who has a direct stake in the project, will sue you. That's the nature of the game. Because the city threatens to do Howard Terminal outside of its own law. What do I mean? SB 293 Skinner says right there in black and white that the city is not the one that is supposed to let the bond issue. What does letting a bond issue mean? It means releasing it. The district, through the Public Financing Authority, is supposed to do it. It is in black and white, folks. Learn to read. Reading is really fundamental. Don't insult the intelligence of the people that that formed these legislations by not creating it and then coming up with something ridiculous in your own mind that justifies your action of not reading. Knock it off. Deal with the intellectual rigor that comes with understanding legislation and how they fit together to do the project. Steel yourself to appreciate the intellectual rigor that comes with forming a proper development process and understanding development economics needed to get the project done. If you do the project in the way the law was written, you will get benefits for the homeless to make them not homeless anymore. You will get enough money to do a reparations project in West Oakland. You will get enough money to do a carve-out for maritime activities, and so on, and so on, and so on. It is all there. Okay? It is all there. What's not there is the combined intellectual desire to want to do this project, advance this project, and complete this project. And so, no surprise, completely agree. The A's are looking at Las Vegas because it presents less of a political problem for them or for any developer. This is beyond absurd what is happening here. There's no other enhanced infrastructure financing district project in the entire state of California that's not following the legal process. But Howard Terminal, because it's in Oakland, it has its own set of problems because it does not. We have a report written by Century Urban that is referred to. But guess what? That report does not have the right tax increment financing calculation. And it says right in one paragraph, if anyone bothers to read it, like Betsy Lake, that, hey, Betsy Lake is the assistant city administrator on the project, Howard Terminal, says, you say you want us to read it. Okay, fine. Guess what, Ms. Lake? While it says that a bond issue would be for 45 years, it only presents 19 years worth of straw person tax increment calculations that they say start at 2020. They don't properly recite the rate of growth and assessed value. They don't even properly present the estimated assessed value on the projects as they come online. You have to go through and calculate them out yourself. 19 years. In other words, they're not using the full go of years to have a bond issue. So you're not using the entire revenue envelope available. Who does that hurt? It hurts the community. Why? Because the community, Oakland community, doesn't come away with enough money to do the projects they meant to have done. So Ms. Lake is harming the Oakland community groups that gather together to produce the documents that are online right now, which really should have a price tag attached to them, but that's not even there. All of this should have been done 2 years ago. And guess what, folks? It's still not done. So we're looking at an additional year, closer to 2, before we see completion. This is already 2022, 2023, 2024. Well, they break ground in what, 2025? Another 3 years, looking at 2028? I mean, come on. It doesn't take that long. It doesn't take that long. It shouldn't take that long. And Taj, you represent the athletics. So this was done, according to the title, under your title as VP of Government Affairs. You were doing the right thing in giving Councilmember Fife a voice. But in so doing, you are exacerbating the problems that have stalled the project. Okay? It was not a good idea. Now we're getting into what I call the silly season that I'd hoped I'd never see with Howard Terminal. What is that? Because we happen to be, among other things, an election year, not just a midterm election year, but a year where we pick a new mayor. This is only going to get worse. We don't know who's going to come down the line next to announce they're running for office, let alone what any one of the 15 mayoral candidates will do regarding Howard Terminal. It is becoming more politicized because people like Councilmember Fife are not paying attention to the intellectual rigor laid out by the legislation that was crafted for it by Nancy Skinner and Rob Bonner and others. And you can complain about, well, it was used to get around this or do that. It was used to fast track a project. That was the idea. But in Oakland's typical Oakland fashion, it has to slow everything down because at the end of the day, Oakland is afraid to grow and afraid to improve. And that's why Oakland doesn't. We analyze things to death. We argue stuff to death of the project. And then we turn around when we complain about how things are. Not figuring out that maybe if we actually started building improvements, we would get them done. Not figuring out if we actually started implementing laws like AB 464, which allows the use of tax increment financing to get money to businesses harmed by the pandemic, then we would have a better city. That's government at work. Not government contemplating its navel, Councilmember Fife. You can contemplate your navel and not be a council member. But you're the council member for District 3, including downtown. That means you go to work. It doesn't mean you have meeting after meeting with the community to make it look like you're doing something. No. It means you suffer the math. It means you suffer the law. What I mean by that, when I say suffer, is I mean you suffer learning it. And if you don't understand it, call on those who do. I don't care if you're afraid to call me. Because you are, okay? But this video is for your own good. You want to serve yourself better? You want to serve the community better? Learn the intellectual rigor that comes with a development project from the standpoint of the government's role. Don't blame the A's. This is a public-private partnership. It's not all the A's. It might sound nice, but the reality is it's not. This started with the city of Oakland way back at the turn of the century. It started way before you even thought of getting involved. And now you're involved. You are the council member of District 3. And whether you like it or not, you have to follow the process laid out by the law and the math. So it's best to learn the process and learn the math. And I'm telling you, everything that you want to achieve, you will get. I promise you that. Subscribe to Zenny62 and bookmark oaklandnewsnow.com. And that is this broadcast.